Yeah, I think Coach Watkins, who was the coach at the time, called me and said, "Hey, Real Salt Lake needs a goalie." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Ooh, I'm like, this is my shot."
All right, welcome. We call this Beyond the Game. My name is Mike Lacey, and I have an imposter here with me, another guy who goes by Mike Lacey. Yes, this is nepotism happening one more time. Michael Dean Lacey is meeting with us. Happy to have you here, Michael.
Thanks, Pops.
It's good to have you. And, oh, man, even just saying Pops brings back some fun stories about your soccer team. Michael Dean Lacey was a soccer player at BYU. Some of my football friends thought that was kind of like breaking the law. Here, football was being replaced by football.
Yeah, you guys called it the communist sport or something like that. And I was like, what am I like this. Leave me alone.
And you did, and you liked it, and you played it so well. He was a goalkeeper. And little did his father know how much being a goalkeeper was like playing the other football.
It was physical.
It was very physical.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And especially, if I get hit, goalkeepers are always grabbing their ankle, rolling around, getting the stretcher out.
I don't know. Are goalkeepers that way? Or?
No.
Goalkeepers are the guy that spit, and they're more like football players.
They're ready to make the blood.
The football players, they get tapped on the back, and all of a sudden.
Yeah, sniper.
My favorite, not emoji, but video on the internet is soccer sniper.
Yes.
Is that not the funniest thing you've ever seen?
It's embarrassing. I apologize to you football players out there. It's a problem with the game for sure. It's still a very athletic game.
It's an extremely athletic game. I know that.
I don't like the flop. I can't stand the flop.
But soccer sniper all of a sudden made it fun.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So if anyone wants to look up soccer sniper on the internet.
Entertainment.
It is true entertainment at its best if you know the game of soccer as it's played internationally. And I love that. But let's fast forward because you called me Pops. And there was a time when the BYU soccer team was traveling around Costa Rica, my old mission grounds. And so, of course, Michael's father had to go with the team, and father and mother, we went down to Costa Rica with the BYU soccer team. And there were other parents down there too. And I just remember more fun than I've ever had with a BYU trip.
The team loved you guys, no doubt. And we were on the bus traveling, going to who knows where, and a song broke out. Ole, 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 Lace Pops, Lace Pops. Everyone cheering for Lace Pops.
Do we dare tell the audience why Lace Pops became a thing?
I guess it's up to you.
Of course.
Okay.
No, what you tell me why you were called what you were called on your team, which at first was really kind of profane? I don't know, embarrassing?
Hey, we embraced it. A couple things. My number was 00.
So you were Cosmo.
But without the mask, I guess.
On the soccer team, the goalie is frequently 00.
Double zero.
00.
And my cousin Brian, we were roommates. I don't know. He came up with this weird name. He called me Lace Balls. And the whole soccer team embraced that. Some people on the team still see me today and they don't remember my first name.
You're Lace
They call me Lace Balls.
Lace Balls.
Allison, my wife, she's Sister Balls. So yeah, it went a long ways. Still to this day, I think people in my office are aware of this name.
I think half of our BYU fans have just tuned out.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's a real thing, though, and yeah, it lives to this day, maybe forever.
And I loved it. It became a thing. And then when they called me Lace Pops and started singing it to the Ole, Ole, Ole song, I don't know. It was just fun to be with that group.
Good group. Looking back, that we could talk about it, but going to BYU, being with like-minded individuals that are good people, albeit we had some fun with the name, really was transformative for my life. And obviously they befriended you, and just friendships to this day.
Absolutely. So. In fact, the head coach for BYU's men's soccer team was one of your teammates.
Yeah, Brandon Gillum. We competed. He was a goalie as well. And I think there were years that he would start and I sat the bench. And there were years that we even split time, and years that I started and he sat the bench. So it was a good rivalry, but we're friends. And he's a fantastic individual. Great coach, loves soccer.
Now, the interesting thing about your team was BYU actually purchased a franchise in what's called the PDL, the Professional Development League. What was that?
Oh, it was fantastic. That was my first year really actually playing. Basically, all your D1 soccer players would come back for the summer and play in this league.
The PDL.
In the PDL. So it was amateur. It was, one step below professional.
For example, I remember when we traveled to Colorado. What was the name of the Colorado franchise?
Colorado Rapids Reserves.
Yep, the Colorado Rapids Reserves. You were playing against their
MLS Junior.
Yeah, well, in baseball, you had AAA League, and this was their AAA League. You were playing against their first level from the professional league.
Yeah, and you can look back prior to PDL, I think we had won 10 out of the previous 12 national championships. Club championships. So we were pretty high.
And why does BYU, I mean, think about it. BYU is a a school that is sponsored by a worldwide church and missionaries throughout Latin America and Europe. Why does BYU not have an NCAA soccer team?
Yeah, I think when I was there was Title IX. I don't know how Title IX has progressed over the years, but they didn't have scholarship.
Right.
Go ahead.
Tell us about Title IX. What do you know about Title IX?
What I knew was you had to have an equal number of scholarships for women as you did men.
Correct.
And so you had the football team and the basketball team, baseball team consuming men's scholarships.
Well, and when you think about it, if you field a baseball team and a soccer team, men's and women's, that's pretty equal numbers, right? Men's and women's basketball teams, pretty equal numbers. A men's football team has like 80-something scholarships.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to field a lot of women's teams to qualify under Title IX before you can field another men's team.
Oh, and I there's plenty of stories we could talk about there, but I do remember, yeah, that was a problem. We didn't have scholarships, but we had players from all over the world because it's BYU. I remember playing against guys from Colombia, Mexico, all on my team that were
you had really good teams, really
great
good
teams.
Yes,
and like I said, we'd won 10 out of the previous 12 national championships or something like that. You have to check my facts. But
what year did you start playing at BYU? After your mission, right?
After my mission, so it would have been 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And I think we went into the PDL expecting to be really good. We won our first game, and we were pretty high against, might have been the Colorado Rapids Reserves. But then we lost the rest of the games except for one. So we went 2 and however many losses.
And you were playing such a high level of soccer.
Oh, the physicality, the speed, the precision, the quality was unreal. And Jurgen Klinsmann even showed up and played against us. They're talking about one of the best players Germany ever had. He was older,
and Jurgen Klinsmann was actually a coach wasn't he for a while, some of the European teams and maybe even the U.S.
He was the head coach for the U.S. national team, but we played against him. I saved one of his shots, and also he scored on me once. So anyway, great competition. And very much a learning lesson for us. Like, wow, we've really hit a wall here. What are we going to do about this? And we worked.
You had mostly pretty close games, or at least, to me, a 3-1 game is close. I guess that's like 21-7 in football.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
But you were in the games.
We were in the games. That year was bad. I think 1 or 2 years after that, I think we had a winning record, a very good record, to where we went to the playoffs and made it to the final 8 teams. Got to a shootout in that game, which ended up being my final game, and we lost in the shootout.
Now, why did I think that game where you were in the shootout was against one of England's, what do they call their second division?
The Championship League.
The Championship League. They have the Premier League as the top
English league.
So many teams. And what I love about English soccer or European soccer is they have what's called relegations. So here in the U.S., at least with NCAA sports, you've got the SEC and the Big Ten claiming that they're always the best, and yet they've got schools like Rutgers and Vanderbilt who really, serve to pad the records of Ohio State and Alabama. And yet in England, if you had a school like Rutgers or Vanderbilt in your league and they were predominantly low of all the teams in that league, they would be relegated to the Championship League, and then one of the top teams or several of the top teams from the Championship League would be relegated up to the Premier League. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool.
That if you perform, you get a chance to move up.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's one of the things about European soccer that we can learn from.
We could. I agree. I think there's ample opportunity to learn and do stuff like that.
Sure.
College football would be interesting.
It would be interesting, but I don't know. We're getting closer to something like that with all the iterations of changes that we have going on in college football. It will be very interesting to see how it all lands, and we're fans of it.
Of course.
Okay, son, Michael Dean, a goalkeeper. Once I was at a game, BYU soccer, with one of my friends who played football. And we were watching Michael play and how physical it was. And a goalkeeper has to intuitively understand probably where the ball's going to go. A goalkeeper has to dive and slide at times that are very, difficult. A goalkeeper has to be able to be hit or hit at the right time. And so he mentioned to me, said, Mike, playing goalkeeper is a lot like playing tight end. When a tight end does a hook route, you're running and then you turn and all of a sudden the ball's in your hands. That's the same thing as a goalkeeper, because frequently your attention's over here at this post and all of a sudden the pass is over here, and before you know it, before you're able to even turn your head, now the ball is on its way and you have to stop it, catch it.
Yeah.
And it was indeed. I looked at it and said, yes, playing goalkeeper is very much like being a tight end, and almost just as physical. What was the most physical encounter you ever had playing soccer for BYU?
Yeah, I love the comparison. In fact, we trained in a lot of the football facilities, the goalies. I remember they had something that would shoot tennis balls at us. I can't remember the speed, but it was really fast.
Michael was like 6'2", 210, so he could have played. I don't know if you were 210, but
I wasn't very.
Could have played tight end.
I was decently fast, but I had good hands and quick reaction. I think that's why goalie was my position. But yeah, we trained in the football facilities, catching balls and reading the number while it's coming at us at 80 miles an hour, and so that was a thing. But your question to physicality, I mean, I'll never forget it. I was married at the time. We were playing at BYU. We were up 3-0, so the game was gone, and there was, I want to say, 10 minutes left. We were playing Weber State, and Weber State actually has a really good soccer team, and I go out. It's a one-on-one situation. The ball's coming at me, and I go down. And in those moments when it's time slows down, it feels like you see the ball, and that's your focus. And so I clearly have the ball. Usually the forward jumps over the goalie so they don't get hurt, but this guy followed through. And so I already have the ball, and he hits me in the head. I don't know if he kicked me or if it was his knee.
A foot or a knee, you don't know.
But I got a concussion. I still remember bits and pieces because I stood up immediately and went to go hit him. And I got pummeled by their team. And I don't know if that's what gave me the concussion or getting hit, but I was out cold. Next thing I know, I'm waking up.
Did anyone get a red card for that?
I don't know. I remember looking up and everyone's kind of walking away, and I'm confused. And what woke me up is they're asking me to do math. It's simple math, like 2 + 4. And I said something like 73. And my wife was out on the field, and she started giggling. I'm like, wait, did I get that wrong? My wife was just as competitive as I was. She was ready
at Farmington High School.
Yeah, Farmington. But she was ready to fight as well. But yeah, it's a physical sport. You get hit I broke a lot of fingers, and football clearly is more physical. But hey, we take some hits too.
Soccer has its moments.
We take some hits.
You do? You do.
And
I know
even the field players, not just goalies. I mean,
and those poor field players, when you see them writhing on the ground, you know that they've been really hit.
Sometimes.
A lot of times when they rewind and you see what really happened, you say, what?
Come on.
And he's grabbing the wrong ankle. What's going on? Oh, that's fun, Mike. It's fun to remember those times and reflect on the different sports. Do you have any other feelings about BYU and your experience there?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Very much transformative for my life. And as you invited me to do this interview, I was thinking, what would be interesting for the audience to hear? And there's a few things. Like, I look back at Title IX, and I played soccer because I loved it. And you taught me to love sports, and I thought I could conquer the world playing sports. And soccer was my passion. So I'm married with 2 kids, and that's a standard BYU thing, it feels like.
At that time, right.
At that time, I'm taking 18 credit hours, and soccer practice and lifting weights and games was pretty intense. I remember we'd show up to practice at 5 a.m. for just goalie training, and then the team would arrive, and then we'd do that practice, and then we'd go lift weights, and then I'd do my 18 credit hours. We had 2 kids. My wife was working, and I got a scholarship for a semester, and it was $500.
Ooh.
And
so mom and dad didn't have to pay as much.
But there's a reality to, what you put into something and the value you get back out of it. And I look at today at a lot of the soccer guys that I'm still connected with are business owners. There's a camaraderie as well. So we had a golf outing a month ago or so.
Really? You mean of your old soccer
of the old
friends?
soccer BYU soccer guys, and 200 guys show up.
Oh wow!
So it's a very connected group. We didn't get paid. We sacrificed or whatever. I remember hoping to go pro, and maybe that's another story I could share.
Sure, do it. I remember that time when you had a choice to make.
Yeah, I think Coach Watkins, who was the coach at the time, called me and said, "Hey, Real Salt Lake needs a goalie." And in my mind, I'm thinking, ooh, I'm like, this is my shot. Looking back, it's probably like, no, they were short a goalie and they needed a temp guy for a couple weeks. But I did. I got to go play and practice with Real Salt Lake for 2 weeks. And at the time, I'm thinking they're going to sign me. I'm going to, this is going to be my career. And sure enough, I put in my 2 weeks, and they're like, see you later. But, as I look at, what BYU did, I was able to meet my wife and learn all these things about people and business, and those types of connections are invaluable. So
what are you doing nowadays that keeps your competitive juices going?
Basketball, actually.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Wow.
Basketball is, I love getting out on the court and playing with my friends.
What time of the day do you get or do you use to play basketball?
So typically we'll start 5:15, 5:30.
Ooh.
There was a summer that we would start at about 4:45. But you're looking at a group of guys that we call it therapy. It's cheap therapy. We go out and play basketball and yell at each other and get in fights.
Get in fights. Well, and sometimes your brothers this summer have been going out there, and I know as father, lace pops, as they said, that these boys, when they get on the basketball court, and basketball is a thing in our family. Of course, I stopped playing a long time ago, but when you were young, I'd get out there and play with you a little bit. But these boys, when they get on the court, it's a battle, sometimes almost to the death.
Yes. It's what gets the competitive juices going.
It does.
And it affects me the rest of my workday. You ask
In
the
a
guys.
good way?
Sometimes.
Oh, sometimes.
If I played good. My wife says don't come home unless you win.
No,
so it's a bunch of guys that want to win. We're old and everything, but to play basketball, to play sport, it's a moment of creativity, of, just uninhibited. You're not thinking about work or anything like that. I mean, to get out and play is valuable.
Fun. That's super good. And what else dominates your time besides raising a family and playing basketball?
Yeah, so time of life with 5 kids at home, you can imagine that's a lot of work, and bless my wife for all that she does there. But business is,
Tell us about your business. You and your brother Daniel have created these businesses. In fact, I remember the first business you created. I don't know if we invested in that, but you were detailing automobiles while you were a student at BYU.
Well, that was part of it. You had 2 kids, 18 credit hours. My wife was kind of, working, but she had the kids. So I was, let's do a car detailing business. So I bought this $800 Ford F-150, put a big old water tank in the back and pressure washer, and I'd go out and detail guys' cars in a parking lot, make a couple $100 a Saturday.
Well, and that was your first foray into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What has that led to?
Oh, yeah. I mean, after that, I graduated in 2008. The real estate industry was collapsing, but I graduated in construction management from BYU. And so writing was on the wall. I wasn't going to get a job. And so I'm like, okay, let's just go start a basement finishing company.
Why basements? That's interesting.
Well, there wasn't homes to be built. And in Utah, there's tons of unfinished basements. And so I thought, well, there's another guy actually that was doing it that said, hey, there's plenty of work. Go ahead.
So if people aren't building new homes because there was a recession in real estate in 2008, then those who were going to build might
upgrade their current house.
Or finish their basement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so I would.
So it wasn't bad thinking.
No, I enjoyed it. Didn't make a lot of money the first 2 years. It was pretty slim pickings. I was knocking doors, as part of my marketing. I wish I had Daniel to help me market back then, but yeah, that grew into then building homes. Got a few jobs. This was still 2010, 11, where it's a difficult, market. But and then that grew into custom home building and started building in Utah County, Park City, a couple of these areas.
Interesting. And then what did you name your company then?
That was Highland Custom Homes.
Highland Custom
still
Homes.
Exists today. Great
That's
home
right.
builder. They do a lot in Park City.
They bought you out, in fact. Your partners, right?
Yeah. That was a life-changing story. If you want me to
Go ahead.
Sorry,
because you went from basement creations right out of school, and you were knocking on doors, and for a couple of years there wasn't much, but then you started doing some building. Basement creations was building, and then you got into some custom homes, and then you started what? Highland Custom Homes.
Yeah, so Highland Custom Homes. Oh, Matt and Kenny, who still run the business to this day. I remember they came to me and said, "Hey, Mike, let's get together and do some work together." And through a lot of prayer, and because I always thought it would just be better just to do it by myself. I don't know why I thought that, but became very clear that partnering with them was the right decision. And so we did, and they augmented the capacity of the business, gave it real marketing and real business behind it. We learned our lessons. We weren't perfect by any means, but to have good people that cared was valuable. And so I still love those guys. And then
they've moved the business now, though, right? You were headquartered in Highland, Utah.
Yeah, I think they're exclusively in Park City now,
right?
And mostly in
is it still
Promontory.
Is it still under the brand of Highland Custom Homes?
It is. It is.
And they're building in Promontory, which are big homes,
bigger than what I ever knew how to do.
Wow.
So,
but I mean, and it sounds like they're successful.
They're doing great. Yeah, I'm neighbors.
So you need to knock on their door and say, "You owe me more.
Give me more money, guys." No, I'm grateful for their success, and I think that leads to, the time where something was wrong. I don't know.
Really,
I felt off, and I thought it was maybe systems that needed to be built for the company or different hires. But I was praying about it, like, what's going on? And I'd go up the canyon and actually went to the temple, and I'll remember I was like, I'm not going to leave until, and this was after months of like not understanding what's going on.
You had a level of frustration.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not leaving the temple until I get some revelation. I wanted God to like help me. What's going on? Cause I don't know. And I'm trying to do all these things. And so I sat there a long time, and I'll never forget, like, just the feeling of like, I said kind of subtly, I quit. And I don't quit. You've taught us how not to quit. Loyalty, like all these values that we have. But when I said I quit, there's a little resignation. And I remember saying it like,
so you felt resonated.
Yeah. Well, it was
feels
resonating.
Right.
But I wasn't I'm like, okay, I quit. Kind of going through, I quit. What? And then finally it's like, bam. And I just, not everyone has this. I get it. There's different ways to make decisions. But for me, this one is life-changing. When I said that, finally, the last time I quit it, and it was just, poof, you quit.
Wow.
It was over. And that hurt. But it was real. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I remember even coming to you. You gave me a blessing. And I remember that blessing to this day. It was not going to be easy. In my mind, I'm like, sorry, that comes later. I forget. But so I quit. Went to my partners, Matt and Kenny, said, guys, I have to quit. This is over for me. And they were great. We worked out a buyout within a week. And so they were good with that. I was good with it. And we didn't know what we were going to do next. So Allie and we had our fifth child. Someone that we brought in one of the youth from our neighborhood into our basement to live till he went on his mission. Yeah, and Tom broke his femur. All within that week.
Whoa.
And so
I remember when he broke his femur, but I didn't remember that was at that time.
That was a week in the space. We found out pregnant, brought in this guy into our basement, and Tom broke his femur. And we're like, oh man, did we make the right choice? And I quit my job that I thought I was going to do forever. Not my job, it was my business. Did you have health
insurance with your business?
It was self-pay.
Okay.
So it was pretty expensive still, but all that happened within a week, and over the next few months, just through agonizing conversation, like, what are we going to do? And the idea, like, of the pain point for me as a contractor was payments and working with my bank to get money out to pay subcontractors. And it wasn't just the bank, it was also flaws in my business, that resonated. And that's when I was like, let's go. We're gonna start a software company that helps banks manage risk and payments.
But everybody in Utah starts a software company, Michael.
Maybe that's part of being a goalie. Like, you just unabashedly run at things and throw caution to the air and just get hit by whoever. I don't know if that's a football thing too. Maybe it's what you taught me is entrepreneurship, and that's when the blessing came into play that you said, this is not going to be easy. And I remember in my mind, because you're right, everyone thinks they're just going to start a business, a software company. They pop up every day. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is a no-brainer. We're going to be billionaires and have all this success. And I think maybe a little pride was there as well in starting this. But yeah, that led to me wanting to participate in the tech and entrepreneurship world.
Cool. And so you did.
Yes.
What was the name of your company?
So at that time, I think we changed. We went from Crux to Spiros to eDraw was kind of one that
I remember
started.
eDraw.
And Cameron probably brought eDraw to life.
Who's Cameron?
Cameron should be here.
I know. I invited Cameron.
He'd be a more interesting story.
And
but
Cameron actually beat us both in golf last week.
he's a good golfer.
It was close. It was close. But
and he's a competitive individual.
He's competitive, but he was kind of shy.
Really?
Well, he didn't want to come.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So
yeah.
So
We'll get him.
This is our challenge. He has to give us like 3-4 strokes aside.
Yeah.
Until he comes on.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah.
For a milkshake.
Cameron Harris, you are now on the clock.
You're called out.
All right. So you got a new business partner, Cameron Harris.
Yeah.
And you were eDraw at the time.
We were eDraw. And that was a cool story because, again, similar to Highland Custom, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I thought I could do this by myself, and I was spinning my wheels. I was working hard and spending money, but it really...
Your idea was to streamline the place between banks
and contractors
and actually the builder or the people who are paying or
Yeah.
Okay.
8 years ago, and even still to this day, it's a very manual process, laden with risk, a lot of legal and accounting documents, Excel, you name it, checks. I could tell you a ton of stories. I don't know if the audience will...
Everything.
Yeah.
We'll bore the audience to death.
Yeah. I was repeating things from Highland Custom Homes where it's like, I could do this by myself. And I'm out there trying to sell to banks, trying to build software, spending money, and
I remember for months you were trying to build the software and you were looking for someone who would be a software genius.
Well, to me it was easy, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to go build this. I'm going to go build this software that does this. Just go build it, and so I outsourced it to, other dev shops is what they call them, and just failure after failure after failure. And Cam comes along. And I've known Cam. I built a house for him, and he's a developer, a contractor, has deep root. He was a construction management major as well.
Really?
And so we would talk and talk and talk. We'd go golf and talk and talk and talk, and finally we synced up. And that's when it became real. That's really the moment when eDraw started, securing real clients. And he brought a business level of experience.
So you were selling
expertise.
Software though, right?
Yeah, I didn't have any sales on my own.
Okay.
I was researching.
What were your clients buying from you?
Nothing at the time.
Okay.
So when Cam came along and Dave, so Cam came along, we continued to work through dev shops, continue to sell, trying to exploit every angle that we could. Obviously, it's a time of exuberance and excitement, and we were, both of us, Cam and I we're out there trying to do something unique. Yeah, we're listening to music really loud, and we're getting pumped. We're calling everybody. I don't care if it's CEO of Zion's or whatever. We're on the phone, and we're cranking, But there's no sales. And we're bleeding money paying these dev shops and, frankly, running out of money. And that's when things start getting a little real. It's like, oh.
So you had some money probably from your sale of Highland Custom.
Highland Custom, which I was applying to eDraw at the time.
Sure.
Cam invested. So it was me and Cam as investors and operators trying to do this.
Who are your clients at that time?
Yeah, who are still clients today. So grateful I'll call out Wasatch Peaks Credit Union in Ogden.
Wow.
And Brighton Bank out of Salt Lake City.
Wow.
And still are great clients to this day. Love those guys. They were our first adopters. We then secured a lot more clients, and we're feeling like the entrepreneur journey has begun, and it's going to be this 2-year glorious thing, and everyone's going to think it's really cool. That's not what happened.
We all do think it's cool, but maybe it took a little longer. So what's the average BYU football or basketball fan gonna think about CoFi? What's our final outcome? Because Oh, have we even introduced the name CoFi?
Sorry. No, I could that perfect segue. So we start doing this marketplace. We crank a bunch of loans with our partners. Interest rates starts going up. Our partner lenders start shutting down. In fact, Silicon Valley Bank goes out of business. First Republic, lots of tumultuousness in the banking sector. So again, revenue flatlines. And we're like, well, you know what? We're starting CoFi. So CoFi is, well, there's two sides to it. We still help and service our partner lenders that see a new way of doing construction finance. Those that are forward thinking are still our partners, and we don't compete with them. But we also have a lending arm where we actually do the loans for contractors, and that's been extremely successful to issue and hold and even sell the paper on the secondary market. And that's what CoFi is, really changing the game of construction finance through those two avenues.
So is CoFi going to be one of the next unicorns that they talk about in Utah?
There's still ambition for that, definitely. And there's definitely a path forward for that. I look at how I've grown over the last, 6-7 years. And I think, truly serving and providing value for the client is inherent in it. The people that work at CoFi, the way we approach the market, that has now become really our culture. But our opportunity to be a big business is there.
And it was interesting to me to meet some of the private equity and big investors, banks and others from Europe that were here a week ago.
Yeah.
That are helping provide you with some operating capital. Well, yeah. Is it operating capital?
We're venture backed, so we have VCs on our cap table, and but we also have different sources of our capital to provide the loans. And yeah, I think you're mentioning Karim, who is a critical player at CoFi, and amongst our other investors, really we do have a tremendous group of investors that help.
We love Karim. My wife and I were visiting our son Luke's mission. He served in the Leeds, England mission, and part of our trip was in London, and so we met Karim. What's Karim?
Abdel Ghaffar Plaza.
Abdel Ghaffar Plaza.
Yes.
He grew up in Spain.
Yep.
But how many languages does he speak?
I actually don't know. You probably know better than I do.
I think he said at least 3, I think. But
yeah.
Anyway, a high up family in Spain and a fascinating and very good.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Brilliant young man who was explaining what they were doing in the financial sector for CoFi. We're proud of you, Michael, what you're doing, and you and Cameron, and we wish you the best. As we finish up this effort in Beyond the Game, what would you like to share with our audience about BYU or your experiences heretofore in life?
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I have your genes, and I love BYU, so I'm always following, going to the games.
Not only BYU, but what's our other team? Oh, maybe we're gonna. I grew up in Northern California.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my sons-in-law actually grew up in Southern California. So I remember when he came to ask me for my daughter's hand in marriage, I knew that he was from that other team. In Northern California National League, well, that's the San Francisco Giants. So I'm sorry if I'm offending. Probably 80% of our fan base or our listeners are from, Dodgeland.
Oh, shoot. I did. You asked me the parting words. The thing that I wanted to
diverted here.
Well, I wanted to just leave it because I don't get the opportunity to talk on podcasts all the time. So I want to share the biggest thing that I've learned and that added value is surrounding yourself with good people. Because the bad people, even though the opportunity might look
bad
good,
or difficult people,
or if it doesn't resonate.
Sure.
I've been fortunate to be surrounded by my wife, Allison, who is she could run my business way better than I could. Cam, who's my partner and has actually, done way more than I could do on the business, has been Lace Pops, who's trained me and invested in my company and taught me sports, everything else. I mean, I feel fortunate to be surrounded. And that would be the, if I could add value to anyone, it would just be make sure, and Chad Lewis wrote about it, surround yourself with good people. That's really the name of the game for me.
Thank you for being here, for all your diligence and efforts in doing what is right. And thank you for being on Beyond the Game. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
And Giants.
And Giants. Always.